Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our contactless check-in and seamless donor experiences webinar. We are so excited to have you joining us here today. Let's get started. So joining us today, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Madison Koutman, and I am the new marketing campaign manager here for GiftSmart. And joining us today, we have Susanna Crawford, our customer marketing manager, and Eric Newman, our director of operations. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Excited to get started.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Eric should be joining us just here in just a moment.
I'm here. Great to see you.
Here he is. Thanks, Eric. We anticipate today's call going around 45 to 50 minutes. We will be taking questions throughout the call and the Q&A, so throw any and all questions you have down there. We'll address them if they're relevant to the topic at the moment. Otherwise, we'll save them for the end for a Q&A section. We will also be using the chat to share resources with you throughout the call, so keep your eyes out for those. And finally, I wanted to make sure you all know that we are recording this call. We will be sending the full recording out in our follow-up email, so be looking for that in your inboxes later today. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic is not a new one for us here at GiftSmart, but it's certainly an important one. And we want to make sure that you all are more than prepared for your upcoming events. So our agenda today will include pre-event, what to do and plan before your event to prep your donors and volunteers for all situations. During your event, how you can make your event as contactless as possible while continuing to provide outstanding, impactful experiences. After your event, ways to cut down on lines and touch points during checkouts, item pickups, and more. And finally, as I mentioned before, the Q&A. We'll be including questions relevant to topics being covered as we go, but we will also dictate time at the end for a Q&A. So here we go. You've heard more than enough of me talking. So now let's get started with a quick poll. Which part of your event would you like to improve most? We'll get the poll launched, but while we do that, Eric, do you mind giving us a quick overview of GiftSmart's new services team?
Sure. So I'm our director of operations, which means I get to lead our services team. And we have an amazing team of experts, advisors, and technicians here at GiftSmart. Advisors provide services like personalized admin training and event team training and campaign management. Personalized admin training to me is the best investment that any GiftSmart customer, new or returning, could ever make. An advisor trains your team on how to set up and execute fundraising in GiftSmart, specific to your context, specific to your strategy. It's a one-on-one private training. And there are other services that team provides as well. Campaign management is like adding another member to your own team leading up to the fundraiser. It's like for 90 days, you got this other team member who's gonna not only help you plan the fundraiser, but help you configure the GiftSmart site using all of their expertise and experience. On the technician side, they provide live event service dedicated in a one-to-one relationship during your event. So during those critical fundraising moments, you've got somebody who's executing your plan on your behalf, closing your auction, sending messages out, things like that. And of course, available by phone to troubleshoot or answer questions that you have, whether you're doing a live in-person fundraiser, an online fundraiser, or something in between. We've got the help you need when you need it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Eric. I am going to end the poll here and share our results. So, Susanna, based on your experiences, what do you make of these results?
Yeah, this is exciting. This pretty much checks in. I think the check-in is probably the part where you probably have the most contact. So I'm glad today we're going to go specifically through check-in and some options that we can do for that. So that is great, and we look forward to helping you out on this.
Awesome. Very cool. Alrighty, let's keep going here. So tons of planning goes into any event, but guaranteeing contactless experiences for your donors calls for even more planning. Imagine your guests spend 15 minutes checking in, 15 minutes at item tables bidding, 15 minutes in line for food or drinks, and 15 minutes at the end checking out. That's 1 hour of their time in line. And if your event is 4 hours, that's a quarter of your event spent missing opportunities to steward relationships in meaningful and rewarding ways. So let's work on fixing that. Susanna, can you start us off with an overview of pre-event planning strategies that you've seen from some GiveSmart customers and just some other really cool creative ideas?
Yeah, this is my favorite part of my job is getting to talk to all of our customers and learn from them as well as having a healthy background of doing this. And I'll first say how exciting it is to be on a webinar where we are talking about going back and being in a room full of supporters and friends.
Woohoo!
I know, right? It's so exciting. So I'm just thrilled to get into this. And the first slide we're going to talk about on this is really around getting that audience. What does that look like? How do you make sure that they feel comfortable? And then what is the messaging and communication around that? So diving in on targeting your audiences. So first think about, what does this look like for you? Maybe you've done a virtual event in the last year, maybe not. Is that something you want to keep doing because you now have a pool of people who are virtual? Do you want to bring back that in-person element? Do you want to make it hybrid? There's just so many ways. So first, kind of determining what your plan is and then what each audience looks like and segmenting them out. It's the first thing to think. While you're doing that as well, I highly suggest, when thinking about your planning, is to poll your audience. Number one thing. And also with that, segment your audience. Think of the difference of how your board members might feel to your volunteers, to your sponsors, and send them different polls, different surveys. Ask what's important to them and what maybe an in-person event might make them feel comfortable. That's really huge. We've heard a lot of different ways that organizations are going about making their people feel comfortable. So maybe that's a waiver someone signs. We've heard that. We've heard just making it as contactless as possible, which we'll go through. We've heard of sanitation stations. We've heard of really creative ways to do this. And I think that it's really up to the organization to know their audience best. And how you're going to know your audience is by asking them. So that's my first thing and what I would always encourage. Then going into the emails, text, communications, we have some here on this slide of different things to think about as you're creating these communications. But specifically, first think about that homepage that you have. Do you have an event homepage? Whether that's on GiveSmart, whether that's on your actual website, what type of messaging do you want to get out there from the beginning around those safety precautions, around those contactless ways? So starting to plan that, as well as that email and text communication that you're going to use to make sure people know how to properly do this, is the first way to get in there. Cannot say enough about FAQs. Any question that you think people could ask you, put it out there in the public, put it on that page. Saves you a lot of time in your own resources, saves them a lot of time of knowing exactly what to do to make sure that they are prepared when they walk in the door of your event. There's also a few things. So what you're seeing here is this text communication. And so when you're thinking about how you have different audiences, if you do have a virtual audience and an in-person audience, the communication may look different. Few cool things to point out is we actually just released that you can schedule text messages on the GiveSmart platform. So that's very exciting. And you can also segment the text message depending on ticket type. So that's actually a really good segue into the next slide. Awesome. So into that, I will first start talking about DIFA Chicago, which you are seeing their ticket options on this side. You're also going to see in the chat link, there is a link directly to this campaign if you want to go check it out yourself. But imagine if you use some of these ticket options and maybe you just had an in-person option as well. But specifically what I want to point out here is how they added that virtual attendance admission plus donation. I think that's great. Plus the virtual donation plus catalog. For them, this was an art show. So the catalog meant a lot, and maybe it means a lot to you. Maybe it means a lot to your sponsors. Maybe it means a lot to that virtual audience. So giving them a takeaway and adding that into this is a great way to go ahead and start to diversify while also offering some upsells or some more ways to kind of fund and get the word out, as well as give some benefits to your sponsors and auction donors. A huge another part of this, of what I want to talk about, is getting those pre-registrations, getting people in early. Gathering the information from the start is going to be the biggest lifesaver and ultimately the biggest success metric that you can get yourself to. With a contactless event, you want to collect the information so you have less to collect at check-in. Putting your settings so that your credit cards are required is going to be huge, and making sure that's there. Also offering something like raffles or instant buy items, and you can actually add it directly onto an order form page if you are using GiveSmart. So just like you're seeing DIFA's tickets, you can also add under that like raffles or swag or something else where people can purchase it in that moment. So that's exciting. You'll also be collecting their information there. And again, that eliminates that credit card in there in the moment of the thing. Okay, great. Also important things to think about is that check-in moment. So you can set up the flow different ways. If you have people check in early, so getting their information early, you can have an express check-in area. So you can have people who have pre-registered their cards come up to his table. You just make sure and confirm their information and let them in. You can also have another station for people who did not do that, but saying something like, if you do this early, you'll get express check-in. Again, what you said, Madison, avoiding that 15 minutes in line, huge. So getting them there in early is everything. Also, just so you know, you can use your My Information tab on GiveSmart as well to be able to put in bid numbers, to be able to put in anything like that, raffle ticket numbers, so people have it all on their phone so they don't have to go up to someone. They don't have to get the paddle assigned at the check-in station. Those are ways to limit contact as well for a check-in. So Eric, I'm going to pass it over to you around training volunteers, because I know that's something you do often.
Yes, we do it all the time. To make an event run really smoothly, we like the principle that everyone knows what their job is at every moment of the event. So for groups of volunteers or members of your team who are working specifically with your technology, whether that's GiveSmart or not, during check-in, they might be welcoming guests and confirming that they're set up in GiveSmart, collecting hopefully not as much information like Susanna said, because that's being done ahead of time, but confirming that everything's there and that the guest knows what we want them to do next. During that unstructured time during an event, they might be helping people bid in the auction or selling raffle tickets or prizes, ensuring that every person can be involved in fundraising. And then during the live program, they're ready to capture those live auction winners and donations. And during checkout, they're ready to get people their items and make sure they're all paid up. So building a great event plan means that making sure that everyone has an assignment and that they're also trained how to do it. If you're using GiveSmart, we have some free resources that can help you do that. We also have a paid service whereby we'll help and train your team. But training those volunteers ahead of time, both on the technical parts of what they're going to be doing, and then also the more soft skills parts of what they're going to be doing, making sure that they're providing distance where they need to, or that they kind of know what the rules are, or what your policies are going to be, and then also that they know really simple things like where are the restrooms and where can I get a beer, because those are always questions that every volunteer is going to get.
Definitely. Oh, sorry, Eric, did you have something else?
No, all you, Madison.
Okay. No, thank you guys both for all of those tips and tricks. That's really, really great information to help with sort of the pre-event planning steps that make your event run smoothly for you, your volunteers, your donors. And now that we've covered the pre-planning and important aspects of conveying information to your virtual and in-person attendees before your event, what can we do during your event to continue seamless experiences for your donors? So Eric, you are a GiveSmart expert and you have so much experience in this area. Can you touch on some aspects of event management, training, and ways to keep events contactless? Sure.
So I think one of the most important things we can all do this year is to be ready for anything. And that means, if you're planning a big fundraiser in person later this fall, I got my fingers crossed and I have a lot of confidence that we're going to be able to do that. But I think we've all learned in the last year and a half that we can't be totally sure. So making sure that you're ready at any moment. We don't like to use the word pivot anymore because it was a little bit overused, but that you're ready at any moment to turn your fundraiser into something that's virtual, something that's hybrid, even if it's not the whole event. If there are just certain people who are either not going to be able to make it or aren't going to feel comfortable being in the room with you, making sure that you're ready for any format at any time. And technology can really help you do that, but a good plan can as well. So during the event itself, when we do get to that in-person format, it's important to think about the moments in your event that slow things down, because slowing things down creates more contact. It puts more people in a small space, or more people talking to each other, because they're interacting and exchanging information. And those are the things that we used to take for granted that we think really hard about now is what are those times that create that face-to-face, person-to-person contact. So the poll aligned really well with what we're thinking about. We spend about half of our time thinking about arrival and check-in, and that's about half of y'all answered that that's the most important thing that you're thinking about right now. So registration and check-in. We've found that there are two ways to create less contact during arrival and check-in, and that's either to create more space, literally rearrange the room to space things out and allow more room for people to be in line without being close to each other. And then changing maybe from a close-up face-to-face interaction to there being a barrier there, or some more space in between your team and your guests. The second way is by moving people through that faster. So we can either create more space or move people through that space faster, and technology can really help us do this. So here are three really just concrete tips for making a faster check-in. The first is sell your tickets ahead of time through the fundraising system that you're going to use that night. So GiveSmart allows you to do this. You sell your tickets ahead of time in GiveSmart. That means that everybody who's bought a ticket and all the people that those purchasers have invited to come with them, they have the ability to confirm their name, their mobile number, their email address, and their credit card all ahead of time, so that they don't really have to do any of that once they get there. We're just confirming it and making sure that we have the right people in the room. The second tip for making a faster check-in is that if you are going to need to add credit cards for guests, think about how you're going to enter those, and buying or renting credit card swipers instead of counting on your team to type in those credit card numbers and then mailing addresses to confirm the credit card number. That'll really speed things up as well. The third one is around bidder numbers, and not every event uses bidder numbers or bidder paddles, but if that is a part of how you do your live auction or your donation appeal, we found that the two fastest ways to get bidder numbers done is either to pre-assign them and put them at their tables or at an assigned seat with their name and the number on them, or actually to assign them at the door. And this is a little bit counterintuitive. We used to think, if I do a bunch of work ahead of time and assign all the bidder paddles and have them nice and neatly in the boxes behind the registration tables, that's going to be faster because I did all that work ahead of time. What we're finding now actually is that assigning at the door, where if I'm a volunteer, I just grab the next paddle, I type in the number into the system, and then I hand it to that person. That's a much faster than rifling or sifting through the box of hundreds of paddles or programs to find the one that has the name on it of the person who's standing in front of me. So think about selling your tickets ahead of time through the system you're going to use that night. Think about credit cards and how you're going to get those entered, and think about bidder numbers. Our team wrote a really good blog about creating a more contactless check-in. I think it's going to be in the chat, and something that y'all should definitely check out. The second, the second part of the event that we see is that unstructured time. So we want to think about spreading out the bars and the auction items. Think about using both the corners and sides of the room and the middle of the room. So there's a lot of focus on, some organizations focus too much on the middle or too much on the sides, but also don't forget about the walls. So we're seeing a lot of organizations now going vertical and using the walls. Let's say, so instead of putting tables out with all of your auction items in them and taking up floor space, you can use screens or signage or images on the walls. Same thing with if you're doing like a gift card pull or a prize pull or a wine pull, you can do those along a wall instead of out on a table, and that creates more space in the room. Or maybe this is the year that for your silent auction, if you're doing mobile bidding and you've got those items digitally there on everyone's phone, maybe this is the year you can leave those items in the back, or at least most of the items, leave them in the back out of the room and have more room for people to mix and mingle. The biggest thing that that we are really promoting now is donors using their own devices at every step of the event. So for check-in, if you've sold that ticket ahead of time through GiveSmart, if they've added their credit card ahead of time, and they are just ready to check in, they can use their own device then to check in. You can send them a text message and they click a link and they are ready to go, ready to start bidding, ready to start donating, ready to start fundraising. They didn't need to talk to anyone or touch anything other than the thing that was in their pocket already to do that. Same thing with bidding, buying raffle tickets, buying, entering prize pools or any other sort of fundraising things that you have going on. Of course, making donations too. Promoting using their own devices to do that is great. And then we talked about credit cards. All of the smartphones that we have in our pocket are really powerful for collecting credit card information too, because we have great features like autofill. When we open up a fundraising page in our browser, if we're signed into that browser, we have our credit card saved from all the online shopping we've done last year. We can just tap that credit card icon and it adds it to the page automatically. No swipe, no typing, no face-to-face interaction with anybody from your team required there. If you are one of the 80% of people we work with who have an iPhone, you've got an even cooler feature there, where if you open the page in Safari, or if your donors open the GiveSmart page in Safari, GiveSmart is compatible with the credit card scan feature there, so they can scan in and see that. The last thing we want to think about is checkout. And again, this is an opportunity for donors to use their own device. So check out and pay from their own phone, and then show you that phone where they've got their red paid stamp and they can check out. So, and then the last feature I'll touch on related to checkout and payments is being able to bulk run credit cards after everyone's gone. Instead of having people come through a checkout line, you've got that credit card on file, and with one click of a button in GiveSmart, you can run those credit cards and you're good to go.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Sorry, I jumped ahead on a slide too quick there. But thank you for sharing those tips. We want to be able to work through everyone's needs, and we have organizations of all sizes and capacities joining us today. So hopefully some of these tips, enable and empower all of you to have successful, safe check-ins and planning for your event. We're getting quite a few questions. So we're going to save a few of those for the end so that we can keep moving forward, but keep those questions coming. Thank you, everyone. So Eric, can you just really quickly give us a overview of one of our newest features, Backstage?
Sure. So as we mentioned, we want to be ready for anything this year. That might mean a 100% in-person fundraiser. That might mean a fundraiser where some people are engaging from home, and that might be a fundraiser where everybody's engaging from home. And the Backstage feature can be used in all three of those contexts. But it really allows you to engage everybody, whether they're in the room or not. There's the ability to do a side-by-side presentation on someone's screen at home, where they're watching a video of either a pre-recorded or live stream of what's going on in the room, and then they can give or donate or buy things on the other side of their screen without reloading the video. The newest feature here that Madison mentioned is Backstage, and this allows you, whether you are the MC on the stage or the person informing that MC on the stage, or just the fundraiser who really wants to know what's happening every single second of the event, especially those really important seconds like the live auction or like the donation appeal where you're collecting a bunch of donations all at once. So Backstage gives you a live feed of what's happening in each of those fundraising areas. So you see the tabs there: live auction, silent auction, donations, etc. You click on each one of those and you can see in the last 10 seconds here what has come in, who's been bidding, who's been donating. You can either use that information to call it out from the stage or from the screen, or just to know for yourself, so you can announce sort of how much money is coming in. Hey, we just got a big $5,000 donation. Thank you so much for that. Can really inform those thank yous. They're right in the moment with real information. You're not creating a fake script of that. It's actually what's happening in the moment, updated live at your fingertips.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. This is a super exciting new feature. So thank you for giving us an overview of that. And Susanna, we had a couple questions come in that I want to toss your way, since I know you have so much experience managing events, running events. And these are specifically about check-in. So, people who are either attending as guests of other people or people who are attending maybe virtually, what are some of the best ways to chase down some of that information, gather that information, manage what information you have for certain attendees, whether they're virtual, whether they're in person, if they're part of maybe a sponsor group? Can you touch on some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I'll break it up a little bit. So around the sponsorships, we all know what it's like chasing down sponsors and getting them to fill in their names for that. And there's actually a feature. So say a sponsor has a 10 top. There is actually a button within the system that you can use to send that sponsor, the purchaser, a reminder to fill in that information of it. So that's a great way. And you can continue to send those reminders as often as you want until they fill out all names, right? You can also enter that manually if you prefer them to send you like a spreadsheet or whatever it is, but the system is made to make it easier for you and send those reminders. There's also a reminder that you can use for anyone else who has purchased a ticket that you can, if you do not have their information, all you need is a cell phone to do this. You can send them a reminder for them to enter their credit card as well. So I've seen a text message. I actually recently got one. I'm in a lot of your campaigns. That was just like, you don't have a credit card on file yet for our event. Can you please complete that with a personalized link? And they will send that to them and they can fill that out directly. So those are a few ways, as well as I know we have a question about the My Info tab. While I can't show that specifically right now on screen share, there is the My Info tab on there and people can see if they have a credit card on file, they can look at that. So again, using text messages is a great way to do that as well. Hopefully that answered that. And I will answer one more thing on that as well. So it is an ability where people can register without buying a ticket. That is so that they can participate in an auction, they can do things within that. I would say adding benefits to adding a ticket, to offering that ticket, is huge. Putting it on your homepage, to attend virtually, buy this ticket, with a button that leads them to that order form. Anything you can do to draw them there if the ticket purchasing for your data management is easier is definitely a tip that I would provide as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Susanna, so much for touching on some of that. That's all really, really beneficial information. And again, thank you everyone for all of the questions coming in. They are really, really great questions. Keep them coming. So again, thank you so much, Susanna and Eric. We've covered the pre-event, we've covered the during the event, and now we're going to segue into the after event portion. I wanted to touch on, really quickly, I read a Forbes article recently about trends using technology that are here to stay after COVID, especially things that made our lives contactless, like ordering your groceries online and picking them up in the parking lot. This past year forced us to use our technology more than ever to stay connected and continue to grow. Some of these trends aren't going away, and they can even be incorporated into your events, so you can be as accommodating as possible to your donors. Susanna, I'm going to pass this one back over to you so we can talk about some time-saving contactless techniques for wrapping up an event.
Yeah, great. So going into this, first I will say that contactless, I think, sounds like a new word, but I'll just say it's something we've been doing for years. I was a customer myself and we had a contactless checkout even back then. So it's definitely something possible. And again, as Eric touched on, technology makes it a lot easier. So with that, going through this first slide around the payments specifically, how to collect the funds. That is huge. That is what you are doing. So there's a few different ways here. One, always communicate your expectations from advance as well. So the biggest thing here is you're going to want people to do it on their own. So as Eric mentioned, you can send a text message at the end of the event. So by doing that, sending them something like, hey, you have an outstanding balance, click here to pay and check out. It leads them through a series of prompts to just simply charge the card that's on file. And then they have what looks like a receipt with a big red paid stamp, as Eric said. That is a very easy way. And I will add on to that as well. When you do send someone a personalized link for them to check out themselves, contactless, what you can also do is set a setting so that they can also cover the transaction fees at the same time. So that is a fantastic way to actually even, save your organization some money. And I will say that from all of the research we've done, we haven't heard anyone say that their donors were upset by having an option to cover that fee. It's never been an issue so far. So that's one way, right? Get them to do it themselves on their own device. When they do check out, there's also a personalized statement that's sent to the email that's on file. So that's also something you don't have to print. You don't have to worry about after. They get that statement automatically. Say that there's still people, right? There's still people that they didn't do self-checkout. They didn't want to. Here's a few options. One, you can communicate to everyone that you are going to run the cards. We have a new feature where you can choose the amount that it is. So if I'm saying this, so like, I don't want to charge my $5,000 donors yet. I want to give them a minute, right? The event just ended. That's okay. I'm going to charge everyone under $2,500. So you can set your limit and then bulk run all of those cards at one time. If you do decide to take this route, I definitely recommend communicating it over and over again. Put it in your FAQ section, put it in your homepage. Let people know what to expect on how this is going to happen. I would say the majority of people know, okay, you have my credit card, you're going to run it, right? That's how it usually works in other transactions, but over communicating is great. Okay, so that takes care of the credit cards, but what about the cash, the checks, the trust funds, the other things going on? You can also offer a table for that, right? Train your volunteers, have them ready. If someone wants to split a payment, you really want to be there for that white glove moment. So have a table, you can stand back. If you have your own iPad, there's no need to touch their phone to get super into it. But you can help them go through that, and you can also clear out their payment through other forms at that time. But the majority of people will use their credit card. Awesome. And then the last one is just adding some additional add-ons there. So a few things that you can do, you can offer people to add on any items that were not sold. In the GiveSmart site, if you have an auction and there's an item that did not sell, it will automatically turn into an instant buy item at the starting bid price. So in that moment too, you can send out a text, hey, we still had items that didn't sell. Have people go directly to those and clear out the deck for you. So there's different ways at the end, add additional swag, do different things to kind of keep that moving. And on the slide, that's actually just a show to show how you can text someone and how simple it is to get that personalized message out to those unpaid people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Susanna. That's really, really great information to kind of, get into some of the nitty gritty ways that you can handle checkout. And moving forward, item distribution. This was a hot topic, so
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, it always is, right? I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it. And especially now that we're adding in different components of virtual, of hybrid, of different things, it can look different ways. So I'm going to give you a few different options. And I think that the biggest thing is before your event, really think about it. Run through it once or twice with your volunteers, go into it in detail and make sure that it's the optimal way for your audience and your multiple audience as well. So again, a great thing about that self-checkout and doing this is there is that giant red paid stamp on it. So this is easy to show anyone. So when they come up to that table, so a few different things of ways to arrange your items in your tables to make this more contactless. One, people are still displaying all their items, as Eric said, kind of in a corner or a different way. I always say put them in item order just to make it easy, but you can do that and you can have people just come up to those tables. And if they have that giant red paid stamp, they show it to a volunteer, and your volunteers are standing as guards around those items, and that person can walk around and help them collect those items. This has been done for years. This is not new. And I would say if you have more than like 50 items, consider maybe roping it off. So that way, I've seen huge conventions do that where they rope off the items and people come up to those ropes. They show the red paid stamp. The volunteers go, maybe they have a slip in their hand where they're writing down those numbers to go pick them up and bring it back to that guest. This eliminates the line of everyone waiting at a checkout station, right? And if they don't have that giant red paid stamp yet on their phone, well, then you can send them to that one table that you have where they can pay in cash or whatever it is. And that person can give them some sort of receipt to go collect their items. Other options, shipping is huge right now, especially with your virtual audience. I would recommend if there are items that you do not want allowed to be shipped, write it in the description of that item. Make sure that you know that this item cannot be shipped. Otherwise, if you are allowing shipping, some things you can do to cover that cost is ask people to enter another donation, or you can literally have like an instant buy item for $10 or whatever it is that you feel. And you can go in, and if someone asks to be shipped, you can go in and add that $10 onto their tab and pay that out for them. Again, always put this stuff on your homepage to make it very easy and people know what to expect from the beginning. Another one, drive-through pickups. This is huge as well. So if you do have a local virtual audience, or you do have people who maybe weren't at the event, left early, whatever it is, you can offer a time where they can come to your organization to pick it up. I've had organizations tell me that they actually prefer this method because it gives people a chance to see the organization's building. Obviously, that depends on who you are and what kind of area you have to do this with, but it's an option. And then the last one I'll say is porch drop-offs. Obviously, you would need some resources for this, but if there are large items or large donors that you want to go to make that extra thank you, this just gives that extra touch, right? Maybe you have a volunteer for one day, make 5 drop-offs of some of the more expensive items, and you get to thank that person one-on-one and create that more steady relationship with them. So those are just a few ideas for your item pickup.
Yeah, these are really, really great. Thank you so much, Susanna. And actually, we had a couple of questions come in real quick for some of these checking out sort of logistical things. Can we require credit cards? One, for, if they register, can we require a credit card on file right away? And how do we get that information? And then at the end, if you're doing a bulk charge, can you do certain exclusions like dollar amounts or certain donors?
Good question. So first question on collecting credit cards. Yes, there is a setting that makes credit cards required. So yes, you can require credit cards when making a purchase for anything. So yes. And then when it comes to, sorry, can you repeat the second one?
Yeah. So if you're doing like a bulk checkout, like we said, you can bulk run credit cards at the end of your event. Can you exclude either like dollar amounts? Can you exclude certain donors? What does that bulk look like, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So you set just like, say it's again, $2,500, all cards under that amount would be charged. So at this point, we don't have a way to exclude certain dollar amounts or certain people, but I will say that we make product updates every 2 weeks. So we are more than open to our customers' feedback and really getting what you need. So that's a great suggestion. And I'm actually writing it down right now to take to our product team as well. So
Susanna, while you're adding that, in the meantime, the tip we've given to organizations that want to leave certain donors out of that bulk charge is, one, you can do it by dollar amount. So if you know that they say donated $5,000, charge everything $4,999 and lower. But if you want to go individual by individual, you can actually mark them as pledged in the system. And if they're marked as pledged, meaning you have said they're going to pay you later by some other method, then their card won't be caught up in the bulk charge at all, no matter what the amount is.
Eric, this is why you do the training. Thanks so much. That's awesome. Great tip.
Yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much. Okay, so now moving toward the end with some post-event follow-up information. Susanna, this one's also you, so take it away.
Awesome. So you guys can see here a chart that we've pulled, and we're going to put this into the chat as well with the research study behind it. And this is just the top 5 follow-up preferences for different generations. I think it's fascinating. Definitely recommend taking some time and going through this resource more. But really all of it is a way to say thank you, right? And thank yous are huge. Again, one of my favorite thank you techniques that's not necessarily listed here that I've heard an organization do is go around and do those porch drop-offs to those top donors. They provided a cookie with their logo on it, right? So just even if it's something little or a handwritten note that you personally deliver, that's just one of the most unique ones that I thought I would call out. Is we've heard it has, amazing results in driving those relationships. But something even bigger here that you can see across all 4 generations is an impact report, which I don't think that's surprising. The biggest reason that donors donate is to know that they are giving to your cause, right? It always comes back to your mission. It always does. So anything you can do post-event to show that their money mattered and where it went to, it's going to be a success, and it's going to hit back home to the reason why they donated to begin with. So that is the number 1 way that people prefer to be thanked. Another one of these is receipts and tax letters. So just one of those things that you just got to do. So, statements are automatic on GiveSmart. So as soon as you bulk run those cards, every single person will receive a statement. That has it listed out, but if you want more specific tax letters, those can also be pulled from GiveSmart and sent out as well. So 2 different things, but know that they both exist because the data exists within the platform. Awesome. And then some other post fundraising ideas. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just keep it going, right? That's your job, is to keep the money flowing in and making sure that you can impact your mission in the best way. So again, just recapping, sell the unsold items, maybe discount them. I would say a lot of times with customers, I've done 10% discount on that starting bid and then sent out a text and did what we used to call a flash sale of those items. Sometimes they're sold for 24 hours. Sometimes they're sold until they sell out. Another one you could do is like a virtual sign-up party for something. So say people loved the chef that you used at your in-person event, or they love the entertainment for the night. Maybe you can do some sort of virtual exclusive cook with the chef party. Or you can do something to take that in-person element and bring it into a virtual atmosphere. And that also allows for all audiences, whoever that is, to come back together, reignite the fun of that night, and meet each other and mingle maybe in a different way than they would have all in person on that night. Last one here, some swag. Always, right? You liked this event? Buy our t-shirt. Support us. Different ways to get it out there. And then Madison, I know you have another fun example. Do you want to jump in with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Something that kind of came up when I was thinking about some of these post-event fundraising ideas and continued communication. Fun fact, I actually used to be a GiveSmart customer before I joined the GiveSmart team. And so when I was at my organization, we had campaigns going year round. So that means from like January to December, if we had any donations coming in, we directed them to GiveSmart, and it really kind of helped us keep things going while we were in between our actual events. And that was something that was really cool. And throughout the year, we sold our swag. So it wasn't just like during an event or after an event, people could buy our swag at any time. And we just listed those as instant items as well on those donation pages. And we saw a lot of success with that. So I thought that that would just be kind of a fun example to throw in at the end as kind of like continued communication and, fundraising ideas outside of your, your gala or your golf event, whatever that may be. So, yeah, just thought I would throw that one in. Anything else that you wanted to finish up here, Susanna?
Not really. I mean, that's it, right? You're post event. And so it's just about what is the follow up after? What is the communication plan? You just developed this massive communication plan for this event, but what's the follow up? How do you re engage these people? How do you steward these relationships that you have? How do you use the data to really enhance your development initiatives?
Mhm.
Uh, I would just say keep thinking, and we have more resources around segmenting people and around the stewardship aspect. So definitely take some time and really think about that even before you even get to the end of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some really great points. And so I just, now that we're toward the end of this, some really quick takeaways from today's webinar. Make sure that you're always prepared for any scenario. If the last year has taught us anything, it's that you can never be too prepared, even, if it's not something COVID related, if the power goes out or there's bad weather or something and you need to change the way your event is running, make sure that you have technology that can support you. Optimize every minute that you have when you're with your guests so that, you make sure that they're comfortable, they're having a great time, and that they feel like they're making a difference by being there with you. And finally, don't be afraid to try new things. The technology is there to support you as you drive your mission. And contactless is an option, and technology can only make that easier. So to jump forward, we do have some questions that I wanted to touch on at the end just before we finish up. So starting with, I think I might throw this one to Susanna. How do people assign and get people paddles or paddle numbers in a contactless way?
Yeah, great question. So you can pre-assign paddle numbers in the system. So under the users tab. So, and again, guys, if you've never seen the GiveSmart platform, we are more than happy to give you a demo of it so you can see firsthand of what this looks like. But you can actually go in and assign paddle numbers to users directly, and that will show up on their My Info tab. Then what I would say is you put the paddles on the table themselves, and you make sure that you write the guest's last name on the paddle itself. So that way they don't lose it, or if they do lose it, you can give it back to them. And I would even say before you get started using your paddles, have your MC, your auctioneer, whoever it is, have everyone confirm that that's their last name on the paddle, and confirm that their My Info tab matches the paddle that they're holding in their hand. And you can have your MC and stuff walk through that, but that is a great way to have truly contactless paddles assigned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Susanna, I saw another method of this at an event actually just this last weekend. I went to my first in-person fundraising event in Houston, and it was great to be back in the room. And I thought it was really smart what they did. They were using the assign at the door method, so they hadn't pre-assigned the paddles. And assigning at the door again can sometimes be faster, and it's also a great way to ensure that if somebody's got a paddle, they have a credit card on file, because you're not going to let them have it until you know they have that card on file. And so what they did is they actually, so they had the paddles, and I'll try to paint a mental picture here. They had the paddles sitting on the check-in table facing the guest and toward the guest. And then, but the number there was big enough so that the check-in person could see it. And the check-in volunteer just typed in that number on their account as they were checking in the guest. And then the guest reached out and grabbed the paddle themselves. So there was no handoff there. It was like a little small thing they thought about, but no handoff, no I touched it and then you touched it. Just the guest picking up the paddle off the table and the volunteer noting the number and entering it into the system.
Yeah.
I love that, Eric. Just jumping in. I love that. I've always been a bigger fan of assigning at check-in. I think you're exactly right. It's easier, and you also don't have a bunch of leftover paddles just sitting around the tables. Right. And so that way right? And you can have a station where they can write their name in Sharpie on it or whatever it is to make sure.
Yep.
But I'm
I
with
think
you. That's a great idea.
the last thing I'd say here, and it's just one of those things I can't not say when we talk about bitter paddles these days, is maybe 2021, or if your next fundraiser's in 2022, maybe this is the year that you finally get rid of the paddles and just have people go from their own device. Anytime I think about contactless, I think about all the parts of my life that have become more contactless. And almost every time I think about that, ordering groceries online and then texting them when I'm in the parking lot, or going to the movie theater and I show them my phone and scan my ticket instead of them handing me one past the window. Every time I think about that, it includes me using my smartphone, which is great because everyone's got one right in their pocket.
Yep.
So for that donation appeal moment, where you would typically use those paddles, this might be the year. You send the text message out, you have those donors click that link on or tap that link from that text message, and then they get to choose the amount they give from their phone. You can use live displays to give that recognition, or have them wave their phone in the air after they donated. But that way, you finally don't have to worry about those paddles anymore. Again, it's not going to be right for everybody this year, but I'm going to keep saying it till everybody does it. Maybe this is the year for you.
I'm
Yeah,
all with you.
yeah, absolutely. And one last question, just real quick. I guess either of you could take this one. How would you promote contactless check-in and check-out to an organization with donors who are not tech savvy or not interested in doing it themselves?
So I've got a thought about this, and the thought starts with she turns 80 in a month. She's 79 years old. She's my grandma, and she FaceTimes me from her iPad all the time so that she can see my little daughter. And I used to, when I was thinking about fundraising events, I was thinking about integrating technology, I would think about my grandma and making sure that it was easy enough for her to interact, if her preference wasn't to use her own device. And maybe it's this year, maybe phones are just easier to use now, or maybe my grandma's special. I think she is special, but I think all grandmas are kind of getting this way now, where, this, I'm starting to think more and more that the non-tech savvy donor is a myth, or at least less prevalent than we think it is, and more of an issue in our minds than it is in reality. So that's not to dismiss the question. I think it's a really good question, and we got to think about engaging everyone. But I think it can help to resize the question to, this isn't everybody, this isn't half the people, this isn't a quarter of the people, or even 10% of the people. This might be a couple folks at your event. So there are a couple things I would say there. Having someone that they can go to, in particular, if you can anticipate who this person is, if they're a big money donor, obviously you want to accommodate that. So have someone that they can go to who can administratively set an auto bid for them where they don't have to keep bidding in the silent auction, or to be able to place that donation for them on their behalf, or anticipate that they're gonna want to donate at that top level in the paddle raise, and enter that donation for them administratively instead of having them do it from their own phone. But again, I think we can right size this problem down to just the handful of people, or maybe zero, that it's actually going to be.
I am going to piggyback off that because I love that. Yeah, I think you're right. And specifically talking about that person who maybe be able to do the auto bids for them. Something that we've seen, because I know in the past, a lot of times people have had others walking around helping people bid, right? So we used to call them bidding assistants, where they would walk around, have you won anything? Can I help you out? Maybe creating one help station that has balloons or something where it's obvious that if I have any trouble with my technology, if I have any issues, I can go to this one person, right? They have an iPad there, they're trained on the platform well, so that way they can go and help, right? And people know because they're stationary, so they don't have to go find them, they know where to go. That's one thought. Another is, again, going back to that pre-communication. If you know that list of people who, it is going to be harder, right? They are going to have those challenges. There are a lot of step-by-step guides that we have. There are a lot of videos that we have, that you can send them in advance. So that might be helpful too. And you can send it just to them, right? Like, make it sound like it's going to everyone. But again, segmenting those people out and making sure they have the resources, that they know what they're doing, are huge. And I'll even take that a step further. I've heard of organizations printing out those step-by-step guides, printing out those different type of things and putting them around on the tables or at the items themselves at the event. so that if people do have a question in the moment, they can just, look at a step-by-step guide that is sitting right in front of them laminated.
Can I pitch in one more thing on that? It was a great idea I saw with a client I was working with yesterday, actually. They were going to print something out, and she actually said this. She said, anytime we print something out, we think, let's throw a sponsor on that. And that's another
Yes.
fundraising opportunity. So if you're talking about that help station or that IT station, or if you're talking about cards or signs you're going to put around the room to give people instructions for how to use their own device, throw a sponsor logo on that and sell that as a sponsorship opportunity. Why not?
Yes. And I just saw the question, if we have stuff pre-made in the help center, if you click help when you're in admin, we do have step-by-step guides and PDFs that you can take out on how to bid.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. This was a ton of information, a lot of really great information. There are way too many questions to even be able to answer live. So thank you everyone for attending today, and contact us afterward. We will get back to you if you have more questions. The recording will be coming later this afternoon, but please, don't hesitate to reach out for anything. If you want more information on Backstage, the My Info tab, payments, check-ins, anything, you can go to givesmart.com/demo, or respond to an email from one of us. We will get you set up. We also have customer webinars coming up and other resources available for you anytime. Next month, we have a webinar on August 19th, same time as today's, and then some other resources for some creative ideas for fundraising. We have our new Yummy involving food in your fundraising and the Alternatives to Golf fundraisers. Those resources will be linked in the chat, or they will be in the email following this webinar. And as always, thank you guys so much. I think this was a really, really, great webinar full of information and more than we can even cover in an hour. So thank you, Susanna. Thank you, Eric.
So fun. Could do this forever. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you. Everyone have a great day.